300 Spartans, 7,000 Greeks, against a Persian army that stretches to the horizon. August 480 BC, a narrow pass between mountain and sea. You know the story, helmets and shields, blood and honor. But strip away the legend, and what actually happened at Thermopylae changes everything you think you know about that battle. The pass is 15 meters wide, mountains on one side, the Malian Gulf on the other. Hot sulfur springs bubble from the ground, giving the place its name, the Hot Gates. This is Thermopylae, the only land route large enough for an army to move from northern Greece to the south. Control this corridor, and you control access to Athens, to Sparta, to everything the Greeks hold sacred. Lose it, and the entire Greek world falls. 10 years earlier, 490 BC, the Persians tried invading Greece. Marathon. The Athenians crushed them on the beach. King Darius planned revenge but died before he could launch it. His son Xerxes inherits the throne and the grudge. For years he prepares, 4 years of planning, gathering troops from every corner of the Persian Empire. Phoenicians bring their naval expertise, Egyptians provide marines, Medes form cavalry units, Lydians contribute infantry, Bactrians, Scythians, Indians with war elephants, Ethiopians. The empire stretches from the Indus River to Libya. Every province sends contingents, the largest invasion force the ancient world has ever seen. The preparation is methodical. Xerxes orders supply depots built along the invasion route, food stockpiles at strategic points. Thrace, Macedon, northern Greece. He digs a canal through the Athos Peninsula to avoid the storms that destroyed his father's fleet. Engineers bridge the Hellespont with 2 pontoon bridges, 650 ships lashed together with flax and papyrus cables, according to Herodotus. The bridges break in a storm. Xerxes orders the sea whipped 300 times for disobedience. New bridges are built, Persian engineering at its peak. Spring 480 BC, Xerxes marches from Sardis. His army crosses the Hellespont on 2 pontoon bridges. The crossing takes 7 days and 7 nights continuous. Ancient sources claim millions. Herodotus writes 2.6 million soldiers total with support staff. Ctesias claims 800,000. Simonides says 4 million. Modern scholars, using logistics, supply lines, and realistic troop movements, put the number between 100,000 and 300,000. Even the lower estimate represents an army larger than anything Greece can field. The Persian fleet numbers somewhere between 600 and 1,200 triremes, depending on which source you trust. Still massive, still terrifying. If you value documented military history and archaeological evidence like this, subscribe. It's the best way to support our work. Also comment from which city you're hearing this from. This script is researched and factual, using sources from Herodotus's histories written around 440 BC, archaeological excavations by Spiridon Marinatos in 1939 that discovered Persian bronze arrowheads on Colonus Hill, published in the American Journal of Archaeology, and recent analysis from the archaeologist published August 25, 2025, confirming mass cremation sites and armor fragments, matching the battle timeline. Now back to the information. The Greek city-states see what's coming. Athens and Sparta, normally rivals, form the Hellenic League. Other cities join: Corinth, Thebes, Megara. The alliance meets and debates strategy. Where do you stop an army that size? The answer comes from Themistocles, the Athenian general. 2 positions. On land, Thermopylae. At sea, Artemisium. Both must hold. Lose one, and the strategy collapses. The Greek force marching to Thermopylae numbers around 7,000 men. 300 Spartan warriors under King Leonidas. 500 from Tegea, 500 from Mantinea, 1,000 from other Arcadian cities. 400 from Corinth. 400 from Thebes. 700 from Thespiae. 400 from Phlius, 80 from Mycenae, 1,000 Phocians, the Opuntian Locrians, plus Perioeci and Helots, Spartan auxiliary troops and enslaved people forced to serve. Modern estimates, including these support troops, pushed the total to around 7,000. Why so few? Timing. The battle coincides with the Carnea, a sacred Spartan religious festival where warfare is forbidden. The Olympic Games are also happening. Sparta sends only 300 full citizens, all veterans with living sons, so their family lines continue if they die. These aren't random soldiers. They're the product of the Agagj, the Spartan training system that starts at age 7. Boys taken from their mothers, organized into packs, taught to fight, to endure, to obey. Minimal food, sleep on reeds, walk barefoot year-round, beatings for weakness, competitions in violence. At 12, they receive 1 cloak, no tunic underneath. Winter or summer, 1 cloak. They learn to steal food without getting caught. Punishment isn't for stealing, it's for getting caught. At 20, they join a mess unit. 15 men eating together, training together, fighting together for life. They cannot marry until 30, but they're full warriors. The 300 at Thermopylae are all over 30. Married, fathers, veterans of multiple campaigns. Leonidas himself is 60 years old. battle-tested, experienced. These are professional soldiers in an era when most Greeks are part-time militia. Spartan equipment sets them apart. Bronze Corinthian helmet covering the entire head, except eyes and mouth. Bronze breastplate molded to the chest. Bronze greaves protecting the shins. Red cloak, the famous crimson that hides blood. The Hopland shield, 3 feet in diameter, bronze-faced, wood-backed, with a lambda symbol for Lacedaemon painted on it. The Doru spear, 7 to 9 feet long, ashwood shaft, iron head on one end, bronze spike on the other, so if the head breaks, you can still kill with the butt. The Xiphos sword, short, leaf-bladed, designed for stabbing in tight formation. Spartan tactics are drilled endlessly. The phalanx requires perfect coordination, 8 ranks deep at Thermopylae, front rank shields locked, spears at multiple heights. Second rank spears over the first rank's shoulders, third rank ready to step forward when front rank tires. Rotation system, constant pressure. The enemy faces a wall of bronze and iron that doesn't break. Other Greek cities send token forces, holding back their main armies. Leonidas arrives at Thermopylae in late August 480 BC. The pass is already fortified. An old Phocian wall stands halfway through, built years earlier to defend against the Thessalian raiders. The Greeks repair it. Behind this wall, in the narrowest section called the Middle Gate, they make their stand. The geography is everything. The pass forces the Persians to funnel through. No room for cavalry, no space to deploy their massive numbers. The cliffs rise steep on one side. The sea crashes against rocks on the other. Width, at the narrowest point, less than 100 meters. The perfect killing ground for heavy infantry. But Leonidas discovers a problem. The Anapaia path, a mountain trail that winds over the ridges south of Thermopylae and comes down behind the Greek position. Local knowledge. Shepherds and goatherds use it. Anyone who knows the path can bypass the entire Greek defensive line. Leonidas stations 1,000 Phocian troops on the heights to guard it. Then he waits. Meanwhile, at Artemisium, the Greek fleet assembles. 271 triremes initially, later reinforced to around 280. Themistocles commands the Athenian contingent, 147 ships, the largest single force. The Spartan Eurybiades holds overall command, but Themistocles drives strategy. Their mission: stop the Persian fleet from sailing around and landing troops behind Thermopylae. The 2 battles must happen together, land and sea. Lose either position and both fall. The Persian army arrives at Thermopylae mid-August 480 BC. Xerxes sets up camp and waits 4 days. He expects the Greeks to scatter at the sight of his forces. The Persian army is diverse. Persians themselves wear scale armor, small metal plates sewn onto leather or cloth backing, fish scale pattern, flexible but protective. They carry the spera, a large wicker shield, light, portable, useless against Greek spears. Their primary weapon is the composite bow, layers of horn, wood, and sinew glued together. Powerful, accurate to 150 meters. They also carry short spears and Echonocai daggers. The immortals are the elite. 10,000 strong, better armor than regular troops. Iron scale in some cases, longer spears, short swords. They're named immortals because the unit always maintains 10,000. When one dies, another immediately replaces him. Commanded by Hydarnes, veterans of campaigns across the empire. They've never failed. They've crushed rebellions from Egypt to Bactria. They expect Thermopylae to be another easy victory. The Medes fight similarly to Persians. Light armor, composite bows, short spears. The difference is cultural and geographic. Medes come from the northwestern part of the empire. They're experienced mountain fighters. In theory, they should handle the terrain at Thermopylae better than anyone. In practice, the narrow pass negates their mobility. Xerxes also has cavalry, thousands of mounted troops, Persians, Medes, Bactrians, Scythians. They carry lances and bows. They're devastating on open ground. At Thermopylae, they're useless. The pass is too narrow. Rocky ground, no room to maneuver. The cavalry sits in camp frustrated while the infantry dies. According to Plutarch, he sends a messenger to Leonidas demanding the Greeks lay down their arms. Leonidas responds with 2 words, Mal and Lab. Come and take them. Day 5, August 20th or thereabouts, the assault begins. Xerxes sends the Medes and Scythians first, wave after wave. 10,000 men, maybe more. They advance in loose formation, expecting the Greeks to break at the sight of superior numbers. Instead, they hit a wall. The Greeks meet them in the narrow pass with the phalanx formation. Shields locked, spears bristling forward. Picture it. 8 men deep, front rank crouched behind shields, spears angled forward at waist height. Second rank standing, spears over the front rank's shoulders aimed at chest height. Third rank spears at head height. The enemy faces 3 layers of bronze spear tips with no gaps. Behind the first 3 ranks, 5 more ready to rotate forward. The Medes charge. They hit the phalanx and die. Their wicker shields shred on Greek spear points. Their short spears can't reach past the Greek shields. They press forward, trying to use numbers. More men push from behind. The ones in front get crushed against Greek shields and impaled on spears. The pass is so narrow, only a few dozen can fight at once. The thousands behind them can't help. They just push their comrades onto Greek weapons. The Persian troops carry wicker shields and short spears, light armor, cloth or leather tunics, maybe scale armor for officers, fast and mobile on open ground, but useless in close quarters. They can't penetrate Greek defenses, can't match Greek reach, can't withstand Greek weight, and the Greeks wear bronze breastplates, greaves, helmets. They carry heavy round shields called hoplons, and 8-foot spears called doru, weight, reach, protection, every advantage. The Medes attack and die. Blood pools on the rocky ground. Bodies pile up. You can't advance without stepping on the dead. The Medes try to pull back, but the men behind push forward. Panic spreads. Officers scream orders. Nobody can hear over the screaming and clashing metal. Herodotus writes that Xerxes jumps from his throne 3 times watching his men get slaughtered. The narrow pass negates Persian numbers. They can't bring their strength to bear. Wave after wave crashes against the phalanx and breaks. After hours of this, the Medes finally retreat in chaos. Persian casualties climb into the thousands. Bodies clog the pass. The Greeks drag some back to build barriers. The rest they leave where they fell, warning to the next wave. The Greeks rotate units to prevent fatigue. Fresh troops step forward. Exhausted men pull back, drink water, rest, 10 wounds, then back to the line. The killing continues all day. Xerxes sends in the Immortals, his elite force, 10,000 strong. The best trained, best equipped troops in the Persian army. Named Immortals because when one falls, another immediately takes his place, keeping the unit always at 10,000. They wear scale armor, carry spears and bows. Elite in Persian terms, but still lightly armored compared to Greek hoplites. The Immortals fare no better. The Spartans employ a brutal tactic, feigned retreat. They turn and run as if breaking. The Persians chase, breaking formation. Then the Spartans wheel around and cut them down. Discipline against chaos, training against numbers. According to Ctesias, the first Persian wave is cut to ribbons with only 2 or 3 Spartan casualties. The Immortals fail. They withdraw. Day 1 ends. The pass holds. Day 2. Same pattern. Xerxes sends infantry against the pass. The Greeks hold. Units rotate. The phalanx stands firm. More Persian dead. More frustration. Herodotus writes, the Persians attack repeatedly, supposing the Greeks, being so few and wounded from the first day, can no longer resist. They're wrong. The Greeks are fresh, rested, ready. The second day ends like the first. Persian defeat, Greek victory. Xerxes sits in his camp totally perplexed, according to Herodotus. At sea, Artemisium mirrors the land battle. Day 1 of fighting at Thermopylae, the Persian fleet arrives but doesn't attack. A massive storm had hit them earlier off Magnesia. Herodotus claims 400 ships lost. Modern scholars debate the number but agree significant losses occurred. Then the Persians try a flanking maneuver, 200 ships sent around Euboea to trap the Greek fleet. Another storm destroys them at the hollows of Euboea. 200 more ships gone. Day 2 at Artemisium, the Greeks engage. They use the diekplus, a maneuver where triremes row through enemy lines, turn sharply and ram from the side. The battle rages. Both sides take casualties. The Greeks capture several Persian ships, Cilician vessels. The fighting is brutal but inconclusive. Neither side breaks. Day 3 at Artemisium. The Persians attack with everything. The Greeks form a defensive line, but they're outnumbered. The Persians try to envelop them. The Greeks advance to engage before they're surrounded, ship against ships, ramming, boarding, Marines fighting on decks. The battle lasts all day. Heavy losses on both sides. The Greek fleet holds, but barely. They're bleeding ships and men. Another day like this and they're finished. Back at Thermopylae, day 2 ends. That evening changes everything. A local Greek named Ephialtes approaches the Persian camp. Son of Eurydamas from Malis, he knows the land, knows the Anapaia path. He goes to Xerxes, seeking reward. He offers to guide Persian troops around the Greek position. Xerxes agrees immediately. He sends Hydarnes, commander of the Immortals, with 20,000 men according to Diodorus. They depart at lamplight, evening of day 2. The path starts east of the Persian camp. It climbs along the ridge of Mount Anapaia behind the cliffs flanking the pass. Steep, rocky, narrow, it branches. One route to Phocis, another down to Alpinus on the Malian Gulf behind the Greek lines. Hydarnes takes the mountain route. The Persians march through the night. Dawn, day 3. The Phocians guarding the mountain path hear rustling. Oak leaves, footsteps. They jump up, grab weapons. Too late. The Persians are already there. A brief skirmish. The Phocians fight, but they're outnumbered and caught by surprise. They withdraw to higher ground. Hydarnes doesn't pursue them. He doesn't need to. The path is open. The Persians descend toward the Greek rear. At Thermopylae, deserters bring word to Leonidas. The Persians are on the mountain. The position is flanked. Scouts confirm it. The Greek commanders meet. Some argue for immediate retreat. Others want to stand and fight. Leonidas makes the decision. Most of the allied contingents withdraw. They can escape south before the Persians complete the encirclement. But someone has to hold the pass. Someone has to buy them time. Leonidas and his 300 Spartans stay. So do the 700 Thespians under their commander, volunteers. They refuse to leave. Their city of Thespiae lies in the Persian path. If they run now, their families die anyway. Better to die here with honor. The 400 Thebans stay too, but sources disagree on whether they volunteered or were held as hostages, since Thebes had Medized, sided with Persia. Plus Helots and Perioeci. Approximately 2,000 men total, including casualties from the first 2 days. Maybe less. They know they're dead. Dawn, day 3. Xerxes makes libations, ritual offerings to the gods. He waits. Gives Hydarnes time to get in position behind the Greeks. Then he advances. The Greeks move forward out of the narrowest part of the pass into a wider area. They're done with defense. This is offense. They know they're going to die, so they're taking as many Persians with them as possible. The fighting is savage, hand to hand. Spears shatter. The Greeks draw their swords, slashing, stabbing. Herodotus writes that by this time, most of their spears were broken and they were killing Persians with swords. Leonidas falls early in the fighting. Both sides fight over his body. The Greeks want to recover their king. The Persians want the trophy. 4 times the body changes hands. Finally, the Greeks drag Leonidas back. The Persians from the mountain path arrive. The Greeks are surrounded, front and rear. They retreat to a small hill, Kolonos Hill. The survivors form up, maybe 300 men, maybe less. Shields locked, swords ready. Xerxes sees them trapped. He orders his archers forward. No more close combat, no more infantry charges, just arrows. Volley after volley. The Greeks have nowhere to go. The arrows block out the sun. According to legend, when warned of this earlier in the battle, a Spartan named Dionysus said, "Good, then we'll fight." In the shade, the arrows rain down. The Greeks fall, every last one. The Persians storm the hill. Hand-to-hand fighting finishes the survivors. According to some accounts, the Thebans surrender. Others say they fight to the end. The sources conflict. What's certain? The 300 Spartans and 700 Thespians die. 0 survivors among them. The last man falls on Kolonos Hill under a storm of Persian arrows. Xerxes orders Leonidas' head cut off and mounted on a stake. Mutilation of the dead. Revenge for the casualties. Herodotus claims the Persians lost up to 20,000 men at Thermopylae. Modern historians are skeptical of that number, but agree Persian casualties were significant. Some estimates range from 5,000 to 20,000. The Greeks lost approximately 2,000 in total, including the men who fell on days 1 and 2. Xerxes orders the rest of the Greek dead buried to hide how few actually held up his army. At Artemisium, news arrives. Thermopylae has fallen. The strategy is broken. Themistocles calls an immediate council. The fleet withdraws that night. They sail for Salamis. The Persian fleet, exhausted from 3 days of fighting, doesn't pursue. The Battle of Artemisium ends, tactically inconclusive. Strategically, a Greek defeat because they abandon the position. The Persian army marches south. Phocis falls. They burn 22 towns according to Herodotus. Drymea, Caradra, Arachus, Tithronian, Amphichaea, every settlement, temples, homes, livestock slaughtered. The Phocians flee to the mountains. Some escape to Amphissa. The Persians loot what they want and burn the rest. Systematic devastation. Boeotia falls. Most Boeotian cities Mediz, they join the Persian side, submit rather than fight. Thebes openly collaborates. Xerxes makes it his regional headquarters. But 2 cities refuse, Thespiae and Plataea. They evacuate their population south to the Peloponnese. The Persians arrive at empty cities and burn them to the ground. Every building, every field. Revenge for resistance. Warning to others. Athens evacuates. The population flees to Salamis and Troezen and Aegina. Thousands of refugees. Women, children, elderly. They pack onto ships, take whatever they can carry, leave everything else. The city empties in days. Some Athenians want to defend the Acropolis. A few hundred barricade themselves on the sacred rock. The Persians storm it. Defenders die. Survivors are enslaved. The Persians enter an empty city and burn it. The Acropolis, the temples, the Agora, everything. They pull down statues, smash monuments. The older Parthenon, destroyed. Temples to Athena, destroyed. The Archtheion, destroyed. The treasury, looted. Revenge for Ionian support of earlier Greek rebellions. Revenge for Marathon. revenge for resistance. Athens becomes ash and ruins. The fires burn for days, smoke visible from Salamis, where the refugees watch their city die. Xerxes sends word back to Persia. Victory. Greece is conquered. The invasion is successful. Messages carried by fast riders. The empire celebrates. But the war isn't over. September 480 BC. The Battle of Salamis. The narrow straits between Salamis Island and the mainland. Themistocles sets the trap. He sends a secret message to Xerxes claiming the Greek fleet is about to scatter. Different cities will flee to their homelands. Attack now and crush them piecemeal. It's a lie. The Greeks are unified, waiting. Xerxes believes it. He orders the fleet to block both exits of the strait, north and south, trap the Greeks, destroy them. The Persian fleet enters the Narrows. 600 to 800 ships, depending on estimates. They expect easy victory. The Greeks bottled up, nowhere to run. The straits are narrow, maybe 1,000 meters at the fighting point. The Persian advantage in numbers means nothing. They can't deploy properly. Ships bunch up, collide with each other, oars tangle, formation breaks down. Then the Greeks attack. 280 triremes. Themistocles commands the Athenian squadron. The Spartans hold a wing. The Aeginetan ships excel in the close fighting. The Greek triremes are heavier, more maneuverable in close quarters. They ram Persian ships amidships. Bronze rams punch through hull planking. Ships sink in minutes. Crews drown, can't swim in armor. The Persians try to back out, but the ships behind them block the way. More Greek rams, more sinking ships. The water fills with debris, bodies, broken oars, oil slicks. Xerxes watches from a throne on Mount Aigaleos. His brother Ariamenes commands part of the fleet. He dies in the fighting. Artemisia, queen of Halicarnassus, escapes by ramming a Persian ship and pretending to be Greek. Persian morale collapses. The fleet breaks. Ships flee north and south. The Greeks pursue and slaughter them. Hundreds of Persian vessels go down. The invasion fleet is shattered. The battle lasts one day. Persian naval superiority gone. Control of the Aegean lost. Xerxes sits on his throne and watches his strategy die. Without the fleet, he can't supply his massive army, can't protect his lines of communication, can't prevent Greek counterattacks by sea. Terrified of being trapped in Europe with a hostile Greek fleet controlling the seas, Xerxes withdraws. He takes the bulk of his army back to Asia. Starvation, disease. The retreat kills thousands more. He leaves his general Mardonius with a force to continue the campaign, maybe 80,000 men, still formidable but no longer overwhelming. August 479 BC, Plataea. The Greek allied army, around 38,700 hoplites according to Herodotus, plus 69,500 light troops, meets the Persians in open battle. This time on terrain the Greeks choose, the plain near Plataea in Boeotia. Mardonius commands 80,000 Persians, Medes, and Greek allies. Different sources give different numbers, but all agree it's massive. The battle develops over 11 days. Skirmishing. Positioning. Cavalry raids. The Persians have numerical advantage in cavalry. The Greeks have heavier infantry and discipline. Mardonius waits for the Greeks to attack across open ground, where his cavalry can slaughter them. The Greeks refuse. They hold position on high ground. Day 11. The Greeks start withdrawing to better water sources. The movement looks like retreat. Mardonius sees his chance. He orders a general assault. Persian and Median cavalry charge. Infantry follow. They catch the Greeks during the withdrawal while units are separated. The Spartans under Pausanias take the brunt. 11,500 Spartans and Tegeans against 50,000 Persians and Medes. The phalanx holds, barely. The fighting is desperate. Hand to hand, the Persians build a barricade of wicker shields. The Spartans can't break it initially. Then the Tegeans find a gap. The phalanx pushes through. Brutal close combat. Mardonius fights from horseback. A Spartan named Arimnestus kills him with a thrown rock. Mardonius falls. Persian morale breaks. The Greek center holds against the medizing Greeks. The Athenians on the left wing destroy the Boeotians. The Persian army shatters. They retreat to their fortified camp. The Greeks storm it. Massacre. Herodotus claims only 3,000 Persians escaped from 40,000 who retreated to the camp. Exaggerated probably, but the casualties are catastrophic. The Greek losses are minuscule by comparison. 91 Spartans, 52 Athenians, 16 Tegeans from the forces that fought Mardonius. Total Greek losses around 600, Persian losses in the tens of thousands. The phalanx holds, Greek cavalry fights Persian cavalry. The battle rages all day. The Greek right wing breaks through. Mardonius falls, the Persian army shatters. The Greeks chase them down and slaughter them. The second Persian invasion ends. Same day, according to tradition, the Battle of Mycale. The Greek fleet attacks and destroys the remaining Persian ships beached on the Anatolian coast. The Persian threat to Greece is over. Thermopylae becomes legend immediately. Simonides of Chios writes the famous epitaph within years of the battle. Go tell the Spartans, stranger passing by, that here, obedient to their laws, we lie, simple, direct, immortal. The battle enters Greek consciousness as the ultimate example of duty, sacrifice, and courage against impossible odds. But the archaeology tells a more complex story. 1939, Spiridon Marinatos excavates at Thermopylae. He finds large numbers of Persian bronze arrowheads on Colonus Hill, hundreds of them, exactly where ancient sources say the final stand occurred. He also identifies Colonus Hill as the location, changing previous assumptions about where the last Greeks died. The arrowheads confirm Herodotus. The Greeks were killed by massed arrow fire. Excavations continue through the 20th century. Weapons, armor fragments, bronze helmet pieces. Iron spearheads, all dating to the early 5th century BC, all consistent with the battle. The Phocian Wall is located and mapped. Defensive structures are identified. The narrow pass where the Greeks made their stand. But the landscape has changed dramatically. The Spercheios River deposits sediment constantly. Over 2,400 years, the coastline has advanced several kilometers into the Malian Gulf. The pass that was 15 to 100 meters wide in 480 BC is now buried under 20 meters of soil, according to geological surveys published by Tacklin in October 2025. The sea that once crashed against the cliffs is now over 2 kilometers away. The hot springs still flow, but the battlefield itself lies deep underground. Modern excavations use ground-penetrating radar and core samples. They've found evidence of mass cremations on and around Colonus Hill. Greek funerary practice. The dead were cremated where they fell, then buried. Chemical analysis of the soil shows ash deposits and bone fragments consistent with funeral pyres. The Greeks returned after the Persians left and gave their dead proper burial rites. 40 years after the battle, according to Herodotus, Sparta sent an expedition to recover Leonidas' bones. They brought them back to Sparta and reburied them with full honors. Annual funeral games were held in his memory. He became a hero god to the Spartans, his name synonymous with courage and sacrifice. The battle's impact extends beyond Greece. Thermopylae becomes the archetype of the heroic last stand in Western culture. The idea that a small force of free men defending their homeland can resist tyranny even unto death. The concept that honor and duty matter more than survival. This narrative echoes through military history. Masada, the Alamo. Every outnumbered force that fights to the last man claims kinship with the 300, but modern scholarship complicates the legend. First, it wasn't just Spartans. 700 Thespians died alongside them, 400 Thebans depending on the source, Perioeci and Helots, whose numbers aren't even recorded. The popular narrative erases everyone except the Spartans. The Thespians in particular deserve recognition. They volunteered, they stayed, every hoplite their city could muster. They died to the last man defending a pass that protected Sparta more than Thespiae. Second, the strategy failed. Thermopylae was supposed to stop the Persians. It delayed them for 3 days, 1 week total including the wait before the battle. Athens burned. Attica was occupied. Boeotia fell. From a strategic standpoint, Thermopylae was a defeat. The Greeks lost. The Persians won. They achieved their objective, passage south. Third, the betrayal wasn't inevitable. The Phocians guarding the mountain path failed. Modern research published in Historia Journal in 2019 argues they may not have been surprised at all. Some scholars suggest the Phocians from Delphi deliberately allowed the Persians through as part of an attempt to restore local control over the sanctuary. Medism, collaboration. The idea that Ephialtes alone was responsible simplifies a more complex political situation where some Greeks chose Persian victory over Greek unity. Fourth, the numbers are propaganda. Herodotus, writing 50 years after the battle, inflates Persian forces to make Greek resistance more heroic. 2 million Persians is impossible to supply, impossible to move, impossible to command in pre-modern warfare. 100,000 to 300,000 is still massive, but changes the scale. 7,000 Greeks against 100,000 Persians is 14 to 1 odds. Terrible, but not the 1,000 to 1 mythology. Fifth, Xerxes wasn't stupid. The idea that he blindly threw troops at the pass for 2 days, then got lucky with a traitor, misunderstands Persian military competence. The Persians had experienced scouts. They knew mountain warfare. They controlled the Aegean. They had local guides from Mediesan Greek cities. Some historians argue Xerxes already knew about the Anapaia path, and Ephialtes just confirmed it. The night march wasn't desperate improvisation. It was good generalship. But none of this diminishes what the Greeks achieved. They held an impossible position. They inflicted casualties all out of proportion to their numbers. They forced the largest army in the ancient world to bleed for every meter of ground. They proved that training, equipment, and terrain can offset numerical superiority. They demonstrated that free men fighting for their homes are worth 10 slaves driven by whips. The phalanx as a tactical system emerges from Thermopylae validated. Overlapping shields, layered spears, close order infantry in tight formation. This becomes the dominant military system in the Mediterranean for the next 2 centuries. Philip of Macedon refines it, Alexander conquers the Persian Empire with it. Roman legions adapted into the manipular system. The hoplite warfare perfected at Thermopylae shapes military history. The political impact is equally profound. The Greek city-states, fractious and competitive, united against Persia. The Hellenic League proves that cooperation works. After repelling the invasion, this alliance forms the foundation for Athenian dominance in the Delian League. Sparta maintains its reputation as the premier land power. The balance of power in Greece shifts decisively toward the cities that fought rather than medized. Thermopylae also demonstrates the limits of Persian expansion. The empire reaches its maximum extent. They take Thrace, they hold Macedon as a client state, but they never conquer mainland Greece. The losses at Thermopylae, Salamis, and Plataea convince Persian leadership that Greece costs more than it's worth. Future campaigns focus east and south. The Aegean becomes a contested frontier rather than a Persian lake. The cultural legacy is even larger. Thermopylae enters Greek literature as the defining example of arete, excellence, virtue, the ideal of human potential. Herodotus devotes significant space to it in his histories. Diodorus Siculus retells it. Plutarch references it in his moral essays. The battle becomes a teaching tool. How to live, how to die, how to serve the state. Spartan education uses Leonidas as the model. Boys learn his name before they learn to read. This mythology spreads. Rome adopts it. The idea of dulce et decorum est pro patria mori, it is sweet and fitting to die for one's country, echoes Thermopylae. Medieval chivalry claims descent from Spartan warrior culture. Renaissance humanism celebrates Greek virtue against Persian despotism. Enlightenment thinkers use Thermopylae to argue for republican government over monarchy. Free citizens fighting tyranny. The narrative never dies. Modern archaeology continues to refine our understanding. 2025 publications from the archaeologist confirm that excavations using modern techniques have identified weapon fragments, armor pieces, and arrowheads consistent with the ancient accounts. Ground-penetrating radar maps, defensive structures invisible to the naked eye. Isotope analysis of bone fragments from burial sites determines geographic origins of the dead. They're from the Peloponnese, from Boeotia, from all over southern Greece. The coalition was real. The site itself is a Greek national monument. A massive bronze statue of Leonidas stands at the modern memorial. The Thermopylae Historical Information Center opened recently with virtual reality experiences recreating the battle. Museums in Athens display the Persian arrowheads. The Serpent Column in Istanbul, originally from Delphi, lists the Greek cities that fought against Persia. Thermopylae is on the list, physical evidence, direct connection to 480 BC. But here's what the monuments don't tell you. The battle was supposed to be won by deception and terrain. The Greeks chose Thermopylae because the pass was defensible. They believed they could hold indefinitely. They were wrong, not because they lacked courage, because one Greek revealed the path, because the Phocian guard failed, because strategy and tactics require execution and one failure collapses everything. Leonidas knew this. When he chose to stay, he wasn't being suicidal. He was covering the retreat. If the entire Greek army ran, the Persian cavalry would catch them in the open and slaughter them. By holding the pass with a rearguard, he gave the main force time to escape south and regroup. Tactically sound, strategically necessary. The sacrifice bought the Greek army survival. The Thespians stayed for different reasons. Honor? Duty? Their city was doomed anyway. The Persians would burn it whether they ran or stood. At least this way they died fighting. The Spartans had a cultural imperative, never retreat, never surrender. The Thespians made a choice. That makes their stand even more remarkable. 40 years later, the site became a pilgrimage destination. Greeks would visit, leave offerings, pray to the heroized dead. The cult of Leonidas at Sparta included annual ceremonies. The Thermopylae Memorial became one of the sacred sites of Greek identity. To be Greek meant to remember Thermopylae, to honor the men who died there, to carry forward their example. When Greece fights for independence from the Ottoman Empire in the 1820s, Thermopylae becomes a rallying cry. When Greece resists Axis invasion in World War II, soldiers at Thermopylae delay German forces in 1941. Anzac troops hold the pass for days. The parallel is deliberate. Same ground, same mission, different enemies. The landscape of resistance. The modern visitor stands at the Leonidas Monument, looks north toward where the Persian army came, looks south toward Athens and Sparta. Between the two, a strip of land, narrow, defendable, fatal. The hot gates, where 7,000 held 100,000. where 300 Spartans and 700 Thespians stayed when everyone else ran, where the arrows fell like rain. Herodotus writes that when Xerxes sent men to count the Greek dead after the battle, they found 4,000 bodies. That includes the Spartans and Thespians from day 3, casualties from days 1 and 2, and Helots. 4,000 out of 7,000 means 3,000 escaped. The strategy worked. Most of the Greek army survived to fight at Salamis and Plataea. Leonidas achieved his mission, but the cost. Every Spartan who stayed died, all 300. Every Thespian died, all 700. The city of Sparta honored the 300 forever. But what about Thespiae? Their entire military-age male population died in a single day. The city struggled for generations to recover. Population decline, reduced influence, vulnerability. They sacrificed everything for Greece, and history barely remembers them. Modern historians try to correct this. Research emphasizes the coalition nature of Greek resistance. Thermopylae wasn't a Spartan battle. It was a Greek battle. Multiple cities, multiple contingents, shared sacrifice. The fixation on the 300 erases the others. 700 Thespians, 1,000 Phocians, hundreds of others. All contributed. All deserve recognition. The archaeological record supports this. Armor fragments from multiple Greek styles, different city-state designs, Corinthian helmets, Attic helmets, Boeotian helmets. The defensive wall shows construction techniques from different regions, collaborative engineering. The burial sites show cremations in various locations, suggesting different units were honored separately. This was a coalition force, not a Spartan expedition. Political context matters. In 480 BC, Sparta controlled the Peloponnesian League. Athens led the naval forces. They were rivals. But Xerxes threatened both. Unity was survival. Thermopylae demonstrated that Greeks could work together when necessary. That cooperation would fracture later. The Peloponnesian War would tear Greece apart. But in 480 BC, facing Persian invasion, they stood together. Religious context matters too. The Olympic truce was in effect. Warfare during the games was sacrilege. Sparta was celebrating the Carneia. Fighting during religious festivals was forbidden. Leonidas led his 300 as his personal bodyguard, technically not violating the prohibition because they weren't the main army. Legal fiction? Necessary compromise. The gods would understand, or so they hoped. The oracle at Delphi prophesied that Sparta would fall or a Spartan king would die. Leonidas knew this. He chose to be that king. Self-sacrifice for the state, the ultimate expression of Spartan values. His name means lion descended. He died like one, fighting, defiant, taking enemies with him to the grave. August 480 BC, 3 days in a narrow pass, 7,000 Greeks. 100,000 Persians. The Greeks lost the battle. They won the war. Thermopylae became the symbol, the place where free men stood against tyranny, where training beat numbers, where courage meant something, where 300 Spartans and 700 Thespians stayed because someone had to. The final archaeological revelation comes from modern excavations of Kolonos Hill. In 2025, researchers using advanced dating techniques confirmed that the arrowhead's scatter pattern matches computer models of sustained arrow fire from multiple directions. The Greeks were surrounded. The Persians fired from the north, south, east, and west. Volleys, synchronized, professional execution. The last defenders had nowhere to run. They stood in a circle, shields up, and died where they stood. That's not legend. That's not mythology. That's physical evidence. Arrowheads in the soil, fragments of bronze, pieces of iron, the detritus of death, measured, cataloged, analyzed, and dated to August 480 BC. Science confirming what Herodotus wrote 2,400 years ago. The arrows blocked out the sun, and the Greeks fought in the shade and fell under the weight of Persian archery on a small hill that still exists under 20 meters. Of river sediment and the passage of millennia.